Hello, miladies of inestimable value. Sometimes the hardest role in life isn't being hated, it's being misunderstood. Psychologists say that women who break away from traditional social molds are more likely to be labeled difficult or unapproachable, even when they're simply being authentic. And that's the silent curse of the Sigma female. She's not playing the popularity game, she's not bending herself into society's neat little boxes, and she's definitely not lining up to be applauded for fitting in. But here's the twist. The very traits that make her powerful are the same ones that make life unfairly harder for her. She walks through the world carrying the weight of independence that gets mistaken for arrogance, silence that gets twisted into hostility, and standards that others call impossible. It's a cruel irony. The Sigma female doesn't have to wrestle with her identity, but she has to constantly wrestle with how the world reacts to it. And the world? Oh, it never misses a chance to punish what it can't categorize. So buckle up, because once you see why life is stacked against Sigma females, you'll realize it's not just unfair, it's almost comically absurd. If life were a game, the Sigma female would be playing it on hard mode, while everyone else still struggles on easy. Number 1. She's punished for existing outside labels. She's punished for existing outside labels. That's the quiet reality Sigma females live in. Society thrives on categories because categories make people feel safe. Alpha, beta, introvert, extrovert, the nurturing one, the seductress, the career woman. Each box makes it easier for others to quickly decide how to treat someone. But the Sigma female slips through all of them. She isn't fully alpha because she doesn't crave leading others. She isn't beta either because she won't blindly follow. She can be feminine but not in the way society wants to police it. She can be career-driven but refuses to let work define her existence. This refusal to settle into one label unsettles people more than they admit. And instead of embracing her complexity, the world treats her as a problem. Because she doesn't fit a ready-made script, she gets branded as confusing, complicated, or too much. Ironically, these labels only exist because she refuses to accept the shallow ones already on offer. People crave predictability, and when she resists it, they take it personally. It's as if her mere refusal to be categorized becomes an act of rebellion against everyone who is desperate to stay within their own boxes. What makes life even harder is how this punishment plays out in everyday interactions. Colleagues can't decide if she's a threat or an ally, so they treat her with suspicion. Friends struggle to pin her down, so they slowly drift toward people who are easier to define. In relationships, partners either try to shrink her into a role or walk away, frustrated that she won't act like the typical woman. Every environment pressures her to choose a lane, yet every lane feels like a trap. And so, the Sigma female pays the price for daring to be whole. Instead of being admired for her authenticity, she's penalized for not giving people a simple definition to cling to. Life becomes a constant negotiation between who she really is and how others try to file her away. It's unfair, but brutally true. In a world obsessed with labels, being unlabelable isn't treated like freedom, it's treated like a crime. Number 2, she's misread as a threat by other women. Other women misread her as a threat, and it happens without her saying a single word. The Sigma female could walk into a room with no intention of competing, yet her very presence unsettles the unspoken hierarchies women live by. Beauty standards, popularity games, or the quiet pressure to conform. All of these unsteady themselves when a Sigma female shows up. She isn't auditioning for approval, and that's precisely what makes her so unnerving. Most social structures among women run on silent agreements. Look this way, act this way, play along with the script. The Sigma female doesn't just ignore the script, she refuses to acknowledge it even exists. This refusal becomes its own kind of disruption. Women who rely on comparison to feel validated suddenly feel exposed. Those who built power by being admired for their beauty, charm, or compliance feel destabilized because the Sigma female isn't playing the same game. She's existing on her own terms. That independence is read as superiority, even when she never claimed it. She doesn't need to attack or criticize. Her detachment alone becomes a mirror, reflecting the insecurities of those around her. And so, alliances that could have been built turn into silent rivalries. Instead of seeing her as an ally, many women instinctively position her as a competitor. Her indifference is mistaken for judgment, her solitude for elitism, her confidence for arrogance. They whisper, they watch, they sharpen their claws, not because she came to fight, but because her freedom exposes the cages others have willingly stepped into. The irony is brutal. The Sigma female is not anti-woman, nor is she looking to dismantle sisterhood, but her existence outside traditional female hierarchies gets twisted into defiance. She becomes the uninvited challenger in a competition she never agreed to enter. This is why her life feels unfairly harder. She faces hostility not for what she does, but for what she doesn't do. She doesn't flatter, she doesn't compete, and she doesn't conform. And somehow, that makes her more dangerous than anyone actively fighting for the crown. Number 3. She lives without the cushion of excuses. She lives without the cushion of excuses, and that's one of the harshest realities of being a Sigma female. Other people can stumble and quickly reach for something to blame. Stress, bad timing, lack of support, even sheer bad luck. Excuses act like social airbags, softening the impact of failure. But for the Sigma female, those airbags don't exist. The moment she slips even slightly, the world doesn't say, "She had a lot on her plate." It says, "See? She's not as strong as she thinks she is." This double standard comes from how people perceive her. Because she's capable, self-sufficient, and composed, society automatically raises the bar for her. What's considered good enough for others is never enough for her. If she handles 10 things flawlessly but misses one, that single mistake becomes the headline. Her successes are treated as expected, her failures as proof of hidden weakness. There is no middle ground, no grace, no understanding that she is human like everyone else, and it cuts deeper because she knows people are watching differently. Colleagues don't look at her work with curiosity. They scrutinize it for cracks. Friends don't see her independence as inspiring. They silently wait for it to collapse so they can feel justified in their own compromises. Even family members can be quicker to criticize than to support, because they assume she doesn't need help. The result is an exhausting silent pressure to never stumble, because she knows the audience around her isn't looking to catch her, only to confirm their doubts. This is what makes life unfairly harder. She isn't allowed the human right to falter without being judged. Where others fail and are comforted, she fails and gets dissected. People don't separate her actions from her identity. They take her mistakes as proof she's not who they thought she was. It's an invisible weight she carries daily. The Sigma female doesn't just have to succeed. She has to succeed without error, without excuses, and without the luxury of being seen as fallible. That's not strength being rewarded, that's strength being punished. Number 4, her boundaries make her difficult. Her boundaries make her difficult, and that's one of the cruelest paradoxes she faces. In a world that constantly preaches about self-respect and saying no, the Sigma female lives out those principles unapologetically. And yet, instead of earning respect, she earns resentment. When she sets a firm line, whether it's at work, in friendships, or in relationships, it doesn't get read as clarity. It gets read as defiance. Suddenly she's too rigid, hard to work with, or complicated, while those who bend over backwards, say yes to everything, and sacrifice themselves for others are applauded as team players or easygoing. What stings most is how quickly her boundaries are twisted into flaws. A man who sets limits is called decisive. A woman who does the same is labeled stubborn or unfriendly. If she says no to extra work, she's not committed. If she says no in dating, she's cold. If she says no to fake friendships, she's antisocial. The truth is, her no simply means no. But people who are used to easy compliance hear it as rejection, even insult. And because she doesn't crumble under guilt trips, she becomes a problem people want to fix. Some push harder, testing her limits. Others walk away, complaining that she's too much trouble. Either way, the boundary is never left untouched. It's always poked, questioned, or punished. This constant resistance wears on her because she's not trying to be difficult. She's just trying to protect her peace. Yet here lies the double injustice. The same people who brand her difficult for setting boundaries are the ones who secretly admire her for having the backbone they lack. They envy her strength, but resent the mirror it holds up to their own spinelessness. And so the Sigma female lives in the contradiction of being both desired and despised for the very thing that keeps her sane. Her no is not cruelty, not rebellion, not arrogance. It's survival. But in a world addicted to obedience, survival looks like defiance, and defiance always gets punished. Number 5. Her depth makes shallow spaces unbearable. Her depth makes shallow spaces unbearable, and that's where the unfair weight of her existence really shows. The Sigma female isn't wired for surface-level living. Fake friendships exhaust her. Small talk feels like slow suffocation, and office politics drain her spirit more than the workload ever could. She thrives on meaning, on conversations that cut deeper than gossip, on connections that go beyond convenience. But the cruel truth is this: the modern world is built on shallow structures. Careers are advanced by networking games, not merit. Social groups often bond through drama, not sincerity. Relationships are maintained with performative affection, not genuine intimacy. For her, this isn't just frustrating, it's alienating. She pays the price for her authenticity every single day. While others can glide through these shallow spaces without blinking, she feels every false smile, every hollow conversation, every manipulative gesture like sandpaper against her soul. It's not that she thinks she's above anyone, but her inner compass refuses to settle for empty exchanges. That refusal automatically puts her at a disadvantage. The person who thrives on office politics gets promoted. The one who plays the popularity game gets included. The one who flatters and entertains gains allies. Meanwhile, the Sigma female, who insists on being real, ends up excluded, overlooked, or quietly resented. And the hardest part? She can't fake it for long. Some women learn to survive by temporarily playing the game, putting on the mask, and slipping into those shallow waters until they're out. But she can't. Pretending feels like betrayal. Her body, her tone, her eyes, they betray her the moment she tries to be less than what she is. She's either fully authentic or painfully silent, and both options cost her in environments built on superficiality. So she keeps paying the toll. Isolation, missed opportunities, fewer allies, not because she's unworthy, but because depth has no currency in a shallow marketplace. And that's the brutal irony. The very thing that makes her extraordinary ensures she'll always struggle in the spaces everyone else calls normal. Authenticity for her is both her crown and her cross. Number 6. She's judged by double standards of power. She's judged by double standards of power, and it's one of the most frustrating injustices Sigma females face. When a man is mysterious and detached, people lean in closer. They call him intriguing, powerful, magnetic. His silence becomes mystique, his independence becomes strength, and his refusal to conform becomes rebellion worth admiring. But when a Sigma female carries those same traits, the narrative flips on her. Suddenly, she isn't intriguing. She's cold. She isn't magnetic. She's unapproachable. She isn't admired for her independence. She's accused of being difficult, bitter, or unlovable. This double standard cuts at the core of how society perceives women. A man can own his solitude and be crowned as stoic. A woman does the same, and she's painted as lonely or broken. A man who speaks less is wise. A woman who speaks less is rude or distant. The exact behaviors that elevate men are weaponized against women. For Sigma females, this isn't theoretical. It plays out in their careers, friendships, and relationships every single day. At work, her decisiveness is read as aggression, while a man's decisiveness is praised as leadership. In social groups, her unwillingness to gossip makes her stuck up, while a man who avoids chatter is simply focused. In dating, her high standards are unrealistic, while men with the same boundaries are considered confident and discerning. She's forced to navigate a world that doesn't actually disagree with her traits, but simply resents that she embodies them. The punishment isn't just external. It seeps inward. Over time, she can begin questioning herself. Is she really too cold, too rigid, too hard to love? But deep down, she knows it isn't her essence that's wrong. It's the distorted lens society uses to judge her. The world isn't punishing her for being detached or mysterious. It's punishing her for daring to hold power in ways it only wants men to. And that's the brutal truth. Her traits aren't flaws. They're mirrors exposing society's bias. Yet instead of acknowledging the bias, the world makes her carry the weight. What makes men kings makes her a villain, and she's forced to wear that crown of contradiction every single day. Number 7. She's forced to translate herself. She's forced to translate herself constantly, and it's exhausting in a way few people ever notice. Every interaction becomes a subtle negotiation. How much of her intelligence should she reveal before it intimidates? How much of her blunt honesty can she speak without being labeled harsh? How much of her intensity is too much for the room to handle? To be acceptable in the eyes of society, she must perform a version of herself that feels diluted, censored, and carefully curated, a shadow of who she actually is. The cruel irony is that society celebrates the same traits in others. Men, for instance, are applauded for being unapologetically themselves. Outspoken, direct, ambitious, these qualities are praised as leadership or charisma. Women who fit into socially acceptable roles get rewarded for conforming to expectations. But the Sigma female, who refuses to compromise her essence, is seen as difficult, intimidating, or excessive. Her authenticity becomes a liability instead of a strength. This forced translation doesn't just happen in the workplace or social settings. It infiltrates friendships, family dynamics, and romantic relationships. She finds herself constantly code-switching, not in language but in personality. She adjusts her tone, softens her delivery, masks her confidence, and sometimes even hides her accomplishments, just to avoid triggering judgment or resentment. Every day requires mental gymnastics to appear approachable while staying true to herself, and the cost is immense. What makes it worse is that she rarely receives the credit she deserves. If she tampers her brilliance to avoid conflict, nobody notices the restraint. If she dares to speak fully and sharply, people recoil or criticize. The Sigma female ends up trapped in a paradox. She cannot fully be herself without punishment, and she cannot fully translate herself without erasing parts of her soul. It's a quiet, relentless form of pressure that chips away at energy, patience, and self-expression. The world doesn't want her entire self. It wants a version it can comfortably digest. And until society evolves, she will continue to pay the price for being too intelligent, too honest, too intense, and ultimately, too real. Number 8. Her silence threatens people more than words. Her silence threatens people more than words ever could. Most people can withdraw, take a step back, or sit quietly without anyone batting an eye. But when a Sigma female does it, her stillness becomes unnerving. It isn't emptiness. It's presence contained, observation sharpened, and judgment withheld. People instinctively sense it and, unable to process it, project their insecurities onto her. What she means as calm, reflective, or simply choosing not to engage is read as hostility, superiority, or hidden critique. This projection turns her into an enemy in the eyes of those around her, a role she never sought or accepted. The more she observes without reacting, the more others panic or become defensive. Her silence exposes their own shortcomings: fear, dishonesty, envy, laziness, or incompetence. It's a mirror they aren't ready to face, and rather than confronting themselves, they lash out at her. Her quiet presence also disrupts social scripts. Conversations, gossip, and subtle power plays rely on participation, reactions, and predictable responses. By withholding commentary, she denies people the comfort of predictability. They want her to fill a role: friendly, agreeable, reactive, and when she refuses, they feel destabilized. This makes her presence threatening, even if she hasn't done anything overtly confrontational. Over time, this creates a strange paradox. Her silence is both her shield and her target. It protects her energy and boundaries, but it also marks her as different, aloof, or difficult. People spend far more energy trying to interpret her absence of words than they do managing their own. And while most misunderstandings can be corrected with conversation, her silence doesn't allow for that. It's a refusal to participate in the shallow theatrics of approval, gossip, and social policing. The result is a constant, invisible tension. She isn't actively creating conflict, yet conflict surrounds her. Her silence becomes a weapon only because others can't control it, can't predict it, and can't use it. And in a world that fears the unknown more than it values authenticity, her quiet presence is one of the most disarming and punishing powers a person can have. Number 9. She's expected to prove femininity twice over. She's expected to prove her femininity twice over, and it's one of the cruelest contradictions she faces. The Sigma female exists outside society's narrow definitions of what a woman should be, yet she is judged relentlessly for not fitting into them. If she shows strength, independence, or ambition, whispers start, she's not woman enough, too intimidating, too harsh, too unrelenting. Her confidence, decisiveness, and self-reliance, qualities praised in men, are twisted into supposed threats when displayed by her. But if she dares to show vulnerability, tenderness, emotion, or softness, the judgment flips. Now she's too weak, too fragile, or overly sensitive. People act as if femininity is a narrow tightrope she must balance perfectly. Strong yet delicate, ambitious yet accommodating, intelligent yet submissive, independent yet relational. There's no middle ground, no natural human flexibility. Every action is scrutinized not just for what it is, but for what it supposedly says about her womanhood. This expectation forces her into constant negotiation, mentally and emotionally. She's acutely aware of how her behavior is interpreted, and every word, gesture, and choice carries weight. While men rarely face this dual standard, she is burdened by it daily. A Sigma female's achievements and personality traits are measured against invisible benchmarks that shift depending on who is watching. Her existence challenges ingrained assumptions about femininity, and the backlash is immediate and unfair. Even in relationships, this double expectation lingers. She can't simply be herself. She must perform femininity according to someone else's subjective standard. Assertiveness might threaten a partner's ego, vulnerability might invite judgment. Friends, family, society, everyone has an opinion, and she's expected to navigate all of them flawlessly. The result is exhausting. She doesn't just have to live her life, she has to defend her very identity as a woman at every turn. Her femininity is scrutinized, her choices dissected, and her essence questioned, all while others glide through life without a fraction of this pressure. The Sigma female carries a burden few see. Being herself is never enough, and no combination of traits is ever truly acceptable. Her existence is proof that society punishes women for defying its narrow, contradictory standards. Number 10. Her romantic standards are labeled unrealistic. Her romantic standards are labeled unrealistic, and it's one of the most frustrating double standards she faces. A Sigma female doesn't settle for love that feels half-hearted, conditional, or shallow. She knows her worth, she knows what she brings to a relationship, and she refuses to compromise just to make someone else comfortable. Yet the world doesn't admire that clarity or self-respect. Instead, she's branded picky, hard to please, or even delusional. Her refusal to accept mediocrity is treated as a personal flaw, a problem she needs to fix. The irony is brutal. Men who maintain high standards, who only date partners that match their ambition, intellect, or lifestyle, are praised as confident, discerning, or assertive. Their selectivity becomes a virtue. But a woman doing exactly the same thing is accused of being unreasonable. Her self-worth, instead of being respected, is twisted into evidence of entitlement or arrogance. Society essentially punishes her for valuing herself the way men are encouraged to. This double standard doesn't just exist in theory. It affects how people treat her in real life. Dating apps, social circles, and even family networks often frame her expectations as the problem when relationships don't form or don't last. She's constantly questioned, corrected, or lectured, as if her desire for compatibility is a moral failing. Meanwhile, men face no such scrutiny for having the exact same non-negotiables. Over time, this judgment creates an invisible tension. She's caught between staying true to her standards and enduring constant criticism, or lowering herself to fit a mold society deems acceptable. Either choice carries a cost: compromise her integrity or face social backlash. Her self-worth, which should be her greatest strength, becomes a battleground, as if her discernment were a crime rather than a gift. For the Sigma female, refusing mediocre love isn't arrogance, it's survival, respect, and intelligence. Yet society interprets it as a flaw. proving once again that the rules are never written equally for men and women. Her standards aren't the problem. The problem is a world that punishes women for having them. Number 11. Her competence gets punished with loneliness. Her competence gets punished with loneliness, and it's one of the cruel ironies of being a Sigma female. She's capable, independent, and rarely needs help, qualities most people admire in theory. But in practice, those same traits make others uncomfortable. When someone doesn't need rescuing, doesn't beg for validation, and doesn't lean on others for constant support, people start to assume she doesn't want companionship at all. They mistake self-sufficiency for detachment and admiration for intimidation. This assumption creates an invisible barrier around her. Friends who might otherwise form genuine bonds hesitate, unsure how to fit into her world. Colleagues avoid relying on her too heavily, fearing she will see them as weak or dependent. Even romantic partners can feel challenged by her capability, mistaking independence for emotional unavailability. Instead of attracting meaningful alliances, her competence often drives a wedge between her and the very people who might understand or support her. The loneliness isn't always loud, it's subtle, creeping into daily life. Invitations are fewer, social efforts feel one-sided, and the deeper connections she craves remain elusive. Meanwhile, people who constantly need reassurance, guidance, or attention effortlessly gather allies and friends simply because they appear more relatable. Her skill, discipline, and composure, which should be assets, become markers of distance, and the punishment extends beyond social circles. Her solitude is often misinterpreted as a flaw. She's aloof or unapproachable, when in reality, she's simply self-reliant. Her loneliness isn't for lack of trying, nor is it due to deficiency. It's a side effect of her exceptional capability. The world rewards dependence and punishes independence, and she pays the price every day. In the end, her competence doesn't just define her success, it defines the isolation that comes with it. She thrives in her ability to handle anything, but in doing so, she carries the invisible cost of being alone, proving that for Sigma females, mastery and connection rarely arrive hand in hand. Number 12. She can't hide in herd identity. She can't hide in herd identity, and that's one of the most isolating realities for a Sigma female. Most women can blend into predefined roles, wife, mother, friend, colleague, and by doing so, they gain acceptance, support, and a sense of belonging. The social script provides safety. But a Sigma female refuses to be fully defined by any role. She doesn't dissolve herself into someone else's expectations, and she doesn't perform a persona just to fit in. This resistance makes her an outsider almost everywhere she goes. She can't simply follow the currents of group dynamics or rely on the invisible comforts of conformity. Her independence and authenticity highlight the boundaries and limitations of others, which can make them uncomfortable or even hostile. While the herd moves in synchronized patterns, she moves on her own trajectory, deliberate, unyielding, and untethered from the social choreography that others depend on. The consequences of this are subtle but constant. Social circles may admire her from a distance but hesitate to include her fully. Professional environments may respect her competence yet feel unsettled by her refusal to conform. Even in family life, her unwillingness to step neatly into expected roles can provoke misunderstanding, criticism, or passive exclusion. For a Sigma female, this is the price of authenticity. She is never fully inside the herd, never completely aligned with the rules that grant safety and acceptance. Yet it's precisely this refusal to blend in that makes her extraordinary. Her uniqueness cannot be packaged or categorized, and while it isolates her socially, it also allows her to see the world more clearly, move more freely, and live more truthfully than most. Being outside the herd isn't a flaw. It's the defining mark of her independence, her power, and her rare, uncompromised selfhood. Life is unfairly harder for Sigma females, not because they lack strength, intelligence, or heart, but because the world refuses to understand what power looks like in her form. Every choice she makes, every trait she embodies, is scrutinized, misinterpreted, or punished simply for existing outside the boxes society has built. Her independence is misread as arrogance. her silence as hostility, her boundaries as rigidity, and her standards as arrogance. She cannot play by the rules others set, nor can she dilute her essence without losing the very thing that makes her extraordinary. She carries a weight invisible to most, the weight of being authentic in a world addicted to predictability, compliance, and shallow conformity. She is constantly negotiating the tension between being herself and surviving the judgments, double standards, and misunderstandings that accompany her authenticity. Every step forward demands not just effort, but vigilance. Every success is expected rather than celebrated, and every misstep is magnified beyond its measure. She thrives in depth, while the world celebrates superficiality. She demands respect, while society rewards compliance. Yet, in this struggle, there is also extraordinary beauty. Her challenges sharpen her, forge resilience, and cultivate a clarity few ever achieve. She sees the world as it is, not as it wants her to see it, and she refuses to trade her integrity for comfort. The Sigma female doesn't just endure life's unfairness, she rises above it, carving a path that is uniquely hers. She teaches, silently and powerfully, that authenticity is priceless even when it costs everything else. To honor her journey is to recognize the invisible battles she fights daily, to celebrate the courage it takes to be unyieldingly herself, and to understand that her struggle is not weakness, but proof of rare strength. The world may punish her for being extraordinary, but she persists, because living true to herself is the one victory no one can take away. Subscribe, like, comment and share if you want to uncover more truths about Sigma females and the silent power they carry. The world may not always see them, but now you will. If this resonated with you, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more brutally honest insights. Like this video to show your support. Comment below with your thoughts or experiences, and share it with anyone who needs to understand the extraordinary world of Sigma females. Your engagement helps us keep uncovering the truths most people overlook.